So here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to show you how I would code this. Okay, and I'm going to start with a very simple concept. I'm going to start with my accounts. Okay, so I need to have a checking account and a savings account. Now, one way to do this would be to say FL savings equals $350.45. FL checking equals $234.95. That's my actual balance. Just kidding. All right, so with 7 kids, that's like one trip to the grocery store. So if I go cheap. Anyway, now that is the most basic way of setting this up. However, I don't think it's the best way to set this up. Because if I go to the bank right now, what I can do, I have a checking account and a savings account at the bank, but I might want to create an additional account, like an investment account. Or maybe I want to create a savings account for my kids' college fund or something like that, right? If I start programming this way, I have no way of adding an account because those variables represent the 2 possible accounts in my program. And so we're going to take a different approach to storing our account information. We are going to, instead of using variables, we're going to use a dictionary that contains our accounts. So I'm going to say DI accounts. And remember, you don't necessarily need to have really long variable names. It's sort of like choosing a personalized license plate, right? You want it short, as short as possible, but still make sense. So I'm going to use that for my dictionary, and I'm going to use curly braces, and I'm going to say my first account is savings, and in that account, I have $350.45. My second account is checking, which is a string, and in that account, I have $234.95. You can see I've got the same information stored here, right? But now, in my program, if I wanted to add a third or fourth or fifth account, I have the ability to do that because all I would do is add items to that dictionary. And I can do that as part of my program. I could ask the user, what do you want to call this account? Investment account. How much money do you want to put in there to start the account? $1,000. And then I could add it to that dictionary. I can't do that with variables like this. When we hard code things into our program like this, and that's what that's called, I actually have to change the program itself to add more accounts, and we don't want that. So we're going to get rid of that. Here's the other thing that I think is kind of cool that we can do with these accounts in a dictionary. And that is this. I can use a for loop to do things to all of my accounts, such as print out the balance. So if I say for key in DI accounts, what I'm saying there is for each key in my dictionary. And the keys are savings and checking, the strings. Because when I use a for loop with the dictionary, what I'm going through is the keys in that. So I can print the key for each of those dictionary items. Okay, so this is level 1. I'm just printing the key for each of those things. When I run that, I get savings and checking. Cool, good start. Now, let's say I want to, in addition to the key, I want to print the balance. Okay, so I'm going to say, how do I get the balance? How do I get the numbers? I use the dictionary object, and then I put the key in square brackets. That's how I access each thing. So I say DI accounts and key in square brackets. And when I run that, oops, my bad. It's because I have two different types. Don't stress, everybody. It's okay. But I can do that. Okay, I can print out the object here. We're going to use F strings in a minute. But there I have now those things. That's level 2. Now, the ideal here is to print these out in a really nicely formatted way. And whenever we have a list of numbers, we always want them to line up on this side so that the decimals line up. So each number, each amount has 2 decimal spaces there, and they line up perfectly because we're using dollars, and that's how people are used to seeing those things. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this and I'm going to use a formatted string or an F string. So I'm going to say F, and inside that, I'm going to use key like this. Now I can do this, F, and I'm going to use my formatted string there, just like that. Okay, now this doesn't really do anything different by itself, right? If I print that out, we're not there yet. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use left justify for the keys, for the savings and checking part of it. I'm going to make sure they're lined up on this side and have an even number of space. And then I'm going to use right justify on this part to line up those numbers on the right-hand side. So on this one, right after the quote, I'm going to put dot ljust. Remember, that's a string method, so I attach it to a string. So it's ljust, and I'm going to say 15. 15 spaces should be enough for the length of my name there. I can put anything, but I just want to make sure that it's long enough to encompass the whole name of the account plus whatever spaces. So I'm standardizing. I'm saying each one of these things, savings, checking, investment, whatever, is always going to take up 20 spaces, no matter how many spaces it actually has. I'm going to do the same thing here, except it's rjust, right justify, and I'll use 20 for that also. Now, the idea that I'm ever going to have 20 numbers in any bank account is probably a little far-fetched, but we'll just be optimists here. And I can even put a $sign in front of it if I want to, right in front of my placeholder inside the F string. So now when I run that, you can see those are all lined up, and no matter how much, let's say I've got a whole lot of money in there, okay? No matter how much money I put in there, it's always going to line up on that side. So I've taken care of the formatting. These are going to line up here. These are going to line up here. There's just one more thing I want to do, and that is inside these ljust and rjust methods, I'm going to give it a second argument. So you can see it's inside the parentheses, comma, and in quotes, I'm just going to put a string that contains a single period for both of those. And this argument right here, and the same on ljust, is called a fill character. The default fill character is a space. You can see that it uses space, but if I change it to a period, then what I get is called a lead. And the nice thing about that is that if I have lots of lines of text here, it provides a way for your eye to track which line is, it's easier to read, basically. So that is how I would use a for loop with that dictionary object to show the balances. So now if I have an ATM that's going to allow me to check balances, make a deposit, make a withdrawal, I've just done one of those 3 functions. I figured it out, people. So all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this and I'm going to comment it out. I highlight it, I press Control and a /, and it comments it out. Or you could just put a number sign, the hashtag right on the left-hand side of it. It'll comment those out. The reason I'm commenting those out, what was that? There's gremlins in the class.